Hello, everyone, and Jai Hind. I am Major Mohammed Ali Shah. I have the proud privilege and honor to be in conversation with a very, very illustrious, a renowned person who studied at the RIMC, Rashtriya India Military College in Dehradun. Of course, he didn't join the army. After that, we will come to that. But normally, we perceive people from RIMC joining the forces, but he's no less than any Fauji. His spirit is undeterred. He is known as an authority on the Northeast affairs. He knows the entire Northeast part of India very well. He understands it very, very well. He, in the year 2009, he suffered a very bad injury with and that got him metal plates in his leg, but that didn't deter his spirit of exploring the northeast part of India, which I always have said is the most beautiful part of India, in fact. So we will let's go and comment. He's been interviewed by various international channels, international personalities. By if I start naming them, oh my God, it's just going to be me talking about his achievements. His We will go straight away and we would but be in conversation with Mr. Jaideep Saikia, and he has been one of the few civilians who's been conferred upon the honor of the GOC in C combination card, an award which my father had got as a young major in Nagaland. I was fortunate enough that I got the same award as a major in Nagaland as well. He's recently been conferred upon the Director General Assam Rifles commendation card because such is his involvement and his commitment with the Northeast affairs. Let's welcome straight away Mr. Jaideep Saikia. Sir, Jai Hind, and thank you very much for spending time, sir.
Thank you so much, Major Ali. This is a great privilege for me. It's a great honor. Thank you so much.
Sir, such an honor, sir, such an honor. Sir, let's talk about your days at the RIMC. I mean, it is Rashtriya India Military College. I have a lot of friends from RIMC, in fact, my course mates and some of them very well trained, already equipped, already made फौजी off when they joined the academy. तो उनको मालूम होता है कि फौज में कैसे डील डॉल तौर तरीके होते हैं. After RIMC, did you wish to join the army? Because you are no less than a Fauji. I mean, when we converse with you, your terminology, your way of conversing is just no less than a Fauji, sir.
Well, let's be start at the beginning and try to end at the end very succinctly. Unlike most of my compatriots who were with me in the Rashtriya Indian Military College, came from army backgrounds, unlike me. And naturally, I wanted to join the army as well. But unfortunately, after having qualified in the UPSC written examination and the Services Selection Board in Bhopal, I was found to be medically unfit. That was my saddest day of my life. So you're quite right when you say, at least I'm a half Fauji, and the respect, the affection, and the love which I have been bestowed upon the armed forces, despite the fact that I have not been able to don the uniform in the official term, I consider myself to be a part of the armed forces in more ways than one, really. And that really, the ambition of joining the armed forces, really the army, was deep rooted in my veins. Even as a 7-year-old, when Major General A.K. Bardalai, who retired as a Major General Bardalai, he was my neighbor, brought the RIMC prospectus to me. I still remember the day very vividly at this point of time. And from that day on till 1978, August 2nd, when I joined the Rashtriya Indian Military College, there was no looking back. And as I said, when I was found medically unfit in Bhopal after having cleared the written examination and the Services Selection Board, I deem it till today to be the most saddest day of my life.
I can well imagine, sir. Sir, but what was because I had a medical issue in my SSB as well. But fortunately for me, it was a temporary rejection, not a permanent rejection. So I had to undergo an operation and then reappeal in the medical board, which was a DNS, a deviated nasal septum. And I had to do an operation of that and reappeal in Pune at the command hospital. And then finally I got selected. Because my name is Mohammed Ali, as you see, sir. I've been a boxer. So in my case, it was a temporary rejection, sir. Aapke case mein kya tha, sir?
और मेरा केस में वही था क्योंकि उसी साल में मैं बेस्ट साइंटिफिक बॉक्सर घोषित किया गया था राष्ट्रीय इंडियन मिलिट्री कॉलेज. आई वाज अ कैप्टन ऑफ माय boxing team, the Pratap section, which was also the Rawlinson. As you know, our Austrian Indian Military College has completed 100 years in 2022. It was founded by the then Prince of Wales, later Edward VIII, and it surprised everybody, including me, because that very year, just months before I went for the Services Selection Board test in Bhopal, I was the best scientific boxer. And there was absolutely nothing really. Naturally, I appealed. I appealed to the 151 base hospital in Guwahati, but I was found to be permanently unfit. Even then, I appealed to Kirby Place, I think the military hospital in Delhi. But destiny had other, plans for me, and here I am now, unsung, a person who could not join the uniform. But I must tell you one thing, Major Ali, that the personnel, the senior personnel of the Indian Army, especially since I was in Guwahati, after having been summoned by the governor of the day, Lieutenant General S. Kasina, gave me an opportunity. People like General N.C. Vich, who became the Chief of Army Staff, and Lieutenant General B.K. Bopana, who was commanding the 21 Mountain Division, made me wear the uniform, and I went out on patrols with various army formations during the heyday of Alpha and NDFB, and stayed with them in the COBs, etc. And the entire thing, and the memory of the beautiful noble uniform which had lovingly tucked away in a corner of my memory returned, and once again I was part of that force, the noble force, which has, as you said very rightly, has decorated me, perhaps one of the few civilians, or perhaps the first civilian, at least by the Eastern Army Commander in 2022, and very recently on the 1st of February by the Director General of Assam Rifles. I salute the noble force again and again.
That's so inspiring. That's so inspiring. So you are known as the security and terrorism analyst, in fact, because when you mentioned the Eastern Army commander made you wear a uniform. The Div GOC over there, Major General Bopana, made you wear the uniform and used to go, and you knew exactly about the terrain, about the area. So you people often mistake you to be a journalist, which you partly I would say yes in a way because you write as well. You write for journals, and so you are a journalist as well. That's okay. So, but how would you differentiate your role as a security and terrorism analyst to the role of what people perceive you as? Some people as a journalist. How do you differentiate between the two roles, sir?
Well, it's true that I write columns, but I have been in government throughout, apart from the fact that immediately after my master's, I was in the Times of India and then Asian Age under Mr. M.G. Akbar, and earlier with Mr. Badshah Sen and others in Times of India, Delhi. But I soon found myself drawn into statecraft, and I was the advisor counterinsurgency operation in the government of Assam, and then I was the expert in office with the National Security Council Secretariat, and still later a senior fellow with the Vivekananda Industrial Foundation under the direct stewardship of the present National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. So, I mean, the way I understand the term journalist is someone who reports and who earns his living because by way of hardcore journalism. I write columns because I have a few books on security and strategy. I'm known as an author, and well, a watered down one at that. But the fact of the matter is, I would like to call myself, and people who know me would like to term me as a conflict theorist or a security analyst rather than a journalist, because I have never really, in the better part of the last 30 years, been any associated with any newspaper or any such thing. Apart from the fact that I write regular columns for the First Post, the Tribune, the Indian Express, etc., etc.
So your work, especially particularly when you talk about the northeast part of India, I mean, everyone, you are a much celebrated figure over there in northeast part of India because I'm saying so with conviction because I have an affinity towards the northeast part of India, and you know that very well, sir. सो व्हेन
Yes.
पीपल टेक योर नेम, बहुत ही इज्जत अदब से आपका नाम लिया जाता है वहाँ पे नॉर्थ ईस्ट पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया से. So you have specialized in terrorism and you in anti-terrorism, and in fact you know about the security aspect. You catch the pulse of it. So what is, let's take your role towards the role of the up north, Jammu Kashmir, and on the western frontiers, sir.
You want me to give a comparison in that sense?
Yes, yes, you can, sir.
Well, I think these are two different, extremities of the country, if I may say so. Kashmir, I've been to there to compare. As a matter of fact, a fellowship took me there in 2000, 24 years ago, to the valley in Kashmir, in order to compare and contrast the insurgency or the terrorism situation there with what is northeast is passing through. They are diametrically different. Kashmir is, for me, a case which is an unfinished war, as it were. We in India, we have naturally a absolute ironclad claim over the place for political reasons. I don't want to go back to hark back to history at this point of time, but the Maharaja ceded to India, and it is only the subterfuges of Pakistan that is keeping the problem alive. But here in Northeast, you see, we are perhaps the only expanse in the entire South Asia region to be surrounded by, five countries, and we are connected to the rest of India only by that willowy corridor called the Siliguri corridor, the 22-kilometer long Siliguri corridor. But we are surrounded by, parts like China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal placed a little further afield, making us perhaps a very strategically sensitive area. Insurgencies in this area, to a great extent, to my mind, after about having studied it for close to 3 decades, tells me that it is actually naturally because of internal dissonance, perhaps even because of the stepmotherly treatment, which many say is responsible for belligerents to have risen. But to my mind, I think the near abroad, to a great extent, has facilitated the insurgencies in the northeast. For instance, if you for one moment you were made to think that the five countries which surround us disappear, I think 99% of the insurgencies in the northeast also would disappear. At this point of time, look at the aspect which are happening in Manipur, for instance. It's to a great extent because of what's happening in Myanmar. The camps are there in Myanmar. You yourself have served in Manipur. You know, for instance, about the Indian insurgent camps in Sagaing Division. You know about the camps in Yunnan. You know about the camps in Taka, which is west of Chinmin, etc. So, despite the fact that India has tried to reach out to Nepido and has been doing so in the recent past as well, the response has been, well, not so warm. And especially after the first February 2021 military takeover, things have cooled to the extent that the valley-based insurgent groups of Manipur have got into some sort of an understanding with the Myanmar's army, in return for which they will be granted safe haven, and the IIDs, the VVIs would have to quell the unrest, the civil strife which has erupted after the military takeover. So I think it's very important, when you compare and contrast Kashmir with Northeast, these are two different ball games altogether.
You're so right, sir. Yes, they are. In fact, even when I had served in J&K, sir, for 2 years as the line of control, then come to the northeast part of India after that. And of course, I saw that there were suicide bombers in Jammu Kashmir, which wasn't the case in the northeast. I saw they were different kind of, they're different kind of ambushes, different kind of ID blasts. They were totally different kind of warfare which was happening in the insurgency in J&K, and here there was totally something totally different. And the cause, of course, as we all know, it was totally different. So let's talk about after you didn't make it to the SSB, and then of course something must have occurred to you. अब क्या करें? अब क्या करना है? You must have been totally shattered, of course, because a boy who grew up all his life in RMC was a very, very good boxer. and with the dream of becoming an officer. And then how did you get into the detailment writing? Because अगर नॉर्थ ईस्ट पे कोई है तो मैं भी यही मानता हूँ that you are the man to look up to. I look up to you. So how did you get into the dabbling into the northeast affairs, sir?
Well, first of all, I did get through the SSB, and as you know very well, yourself being a former army officer, it's a very, very tough call. It's not like people who join the IAS after having gone through half an hour of interview. We go through a 3-day rigorous interview, right? And I did so in Bhopal. I got through. It was bad luck that I got medically unfit. So I joined St. Stephen's, and I think
Oh,
much of my intellectual life grew there as well. In RIMC, I like to put it this way. I marched in the parade ground in RIMC. I learned what is Karma Kand in the sense, like, at that point of time as a cadet, I wondered what was the meaning of 21 cadets marching in unison. You see, it's only after I joined St. Stephen's, and perhaps even now, there are levels of learning and education. I realize that it is important to be one. You see, for instance, in the heat of battle, for instance, my buddy should know exactly what Jaideep Saikia is going to do the next moment. You see, it was very important to have marched in unison. And after having graduated from that unison, that uniformity into something which is of a high order, which in Shastras we call it the Paramarthik level, as opposed to the Vyavaharik level. You understand the real reason for which people come together, enjoining their objectives and their realization as one. Now, writing was very important because that's the only way I could sort of communicate my deeper thoughts, especially about a region for which I belong. I returned to Assam after having completed my master's from St. Stephen's, and there was a break before I went to the United States to study and be on a fellowship in the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. But it was important for me to learn that the region which is neglected or is actually experiencing so much of belligerence has to be spoken about, written about, conveyed to the powers that be in the corridors. And because of my training in the RIMC, having seen North India, having seen mainland India, it was easier for me to sort of, adopt the jargon, the idiom, which I could communicate. I think that came through. And you must also, and I'm very proud about this fact that I come from not a family of army officers, which the way you do, Major Ali, but I come from a family of literators. I have a Padma Bhushan from my family. I have 3 Sahitya Sabha presidents from my family. My father and grandfather were, authors of great substance. So I think, I remember you talking to Karan Thapar in one of these similar interviews when you talked about whether the follow-throughs are genetically disposed or otherwise. I think to a great extent, we tend to feel that since our forefathers were of a particular calling, we try to live up to them. I'm not saying everybody, but at least 50%. And some of it comes naturally, and naturally the rest of it is nurture. So nature and nurture does have a very important role in your sort of, the calling that you actually excel in. But I must caution you, I'm a student of security, and I continue to be that. The day I feel that I have excelled, that is the last day of my life.
that's very humble and modest of you to say that, sir. Because a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends, in fact, they always say that he is. They what they say. I'm telling this to you, sir. You might play it down very humbly. They say he's the last word on security. That's what they say. That my friends tell me about, and especially particularly pertaining to the northeast part of affairs, sir. Now let's say if you were not, sir, you were saying something, sir?
No, please.
All right. So let's say if you were not, you didn't belong to Assam, say, you belong to, say, Haryana, or you belong to Kashmir. So do you think your area of specialization, I mean, I would call it area of specialization, though formally you may not regard it as such, but particularly so you are focused mainly on the northeast part of India, and I'm so glad, I'm so heartened, I'm so happy about that. Whenever I see, my affiliation towards the northeast part of India, I had served in JNKFL, but बहुत मोहब्बत है इधर, नॉर्थ ईस्ट part of India बहुत ज्यादा मोहब्बत है. So do you think you would have still have focused as much you do right now on the northeast part of India, sir?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I can't say for certainty because naturally the fact that मुझे यहाँ बुलाया गया था उस जमाने के राज्यपाल लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल एस के सिन्हा, उसी कारण मुझे यहाँ आना पड़ा और मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी दिया गया. I was made an advisor to the government as a result of his chaperoning. But the fact of the matter, if to go hypothetically go by your example, if after having medically found unfit for entry into the army, which was the only ambition in my life at that point of time, when I was a 17-year-old boy, I would have taken on the calling of a teacher. And I think that is the best way of communicating or sort of transforming one energy level to the other without going into the value judgment aspect of it. But I would have certainly written because my father, I still remember, used to encourage me to write and read. I always used to sort of bawl around as a small boy for a toy gun or a Russian football or this, that, the other. But the only presents which I received from my father were books. And naturally, as a result of that pressure, which I'm really, really grateful to him, is no more. But the fact of the matter is, books are my generals, and I conquer new territories through them. And I ended up as an author, and one of my books, which I wrote in the United States, is a best-selling one, Terror Sans Frontiers, and I've written books along with Russian Zarina of Terrorism, Ikitar and Nastapunava. Books have been inaugurated by B.G. Verghese, Stephen Philip Cohen, Satish Chandra. One feels good, and I think words do convey the most, you see, and that is why I think if I were in a different part of the country, I could perhaps have been drawn into Northeast as well, because it's an area of conflict, and I am a student of conflict and a student of security. And since I had the training of being a military man, I think conflict was something which came naturally to me. I thought that conflict cannot be managed; it has to be resolved. And naturally, one of the only ways I had that at the point of time, since I could not wield the gun physically, I needed to wield the pen instead. But I must tell you that I'm a great lover of firing ranges, and wherever I get a time to go to, Indian Army ranges, and they are very, very forthcoming. I, fire at lifeless targets to my heart's content. So, and I'm a marksman. So I do feel that, when you say the pen is mightier than the sword, there is, a lot of weight behind that, but it has to go hand in hand. As a parting shot, I must tell you that when I was passing out of the University of Illinois, I was given a present by my guide, by my mentor, and as is the want, one has to open the present in front of everybody. So I opened the box and I found a little pen knife and a pen. So one of my colleagues sort of chirped from behind, Jaideep does a little bit of both. So that person knew that I was very, very close to arms, small arms as well, and naturally the pen naturally had to sort of take the place of the gun at most point of times.
Yes, I agree, sir. The pen had to take the place of the gun, and I can see some very nice collection of books behind you. And in fact, you mentioned your father used to always gift you books. In fact, that's the best gift one can give. In fact, so I can see some legal books as well, sir. If I'm not mistaken, if I have my eyesight is right, if I can see a legal book behind you, is that a book on law or something on towards your
Well,
right?
you see, you see, my collection of books is perhaps the only piece of property I own. I'm not a very moneyed man. The fact of the matter is, but I read, and I read a lot during the time when I was in Delhi. As I said, I was in Times of India, Asian Age, and dabbled with television as well as a director of the Anand Bazar group of television, which was also in Parliament Street, Delhi. And I started something called the Northeast Update. So one had to read a plethora of books across the board, starting from science to religion, uh, as you said, to legal aspects, because I am not the voracious reader that I wish I was, but to the extent possible, yes, I do read a lot. At least I read 10 pages every day. But more importantly, I think, it's important to be able to digest the work and churn out something. It's like almost a thesis, antithesis, and a synthesis, sort of a progression that is should sort of actually spew forth from the reading. That's very important. So yes, I do read across the board, but once again, I am not the voracious reader that I wish I was. And there are a lot of books of late which continue to lie, unread, unfortunately.
Sir, sir, it's been such a delight and so wonderful being in conversation with you, and I have taken much of your time, in fact. So, before we part ways, any last message you would like to throw out in the universe, sir? I mean, for everyone.
Well, Major Ali, I just want to say, naturally, I'm really grateful to you for having given me this opportunity. But in Northeast, we are passing through a bit of a disturbed time, and I want to reach out to the uniform that he wore in the Assam Rifles, who have honored me very recently, and have, I mean, for instance, just 11 years are left for it to complete 200 years. As you know, it started as a Kachar levy in 1835, right? And I have read the history of the Assam Rifles by Colonel Shakespeare. And I've gone out with Assam Rifles on a number of occasions. When I mean Assam Rifles is naturally officered by the Indian Army officers. But a force like that is being lampooned in a place like Manipur. And as you know, the Valley Manipur people are now asking for its removal. I think it's not only preposterous, but it is very, very disturbing and distressing. Now, I do not know what the call of the government in India would be, but I just do hope that better sense and saner aspects would prevail over the people of Manipur and the Northeast, and actually not only stop this move for removal of the Assam Rifles from the Valley Manipur, as it has been sort of demanded by a radical group called the Arombai Tengol, but more importantly, actually express its gratitude for a force, a noble force, for which has not only you know striven so much for the Northeast, but has sacrificed its lives and that of its families for the people of Northeast. In the end, I think in India, the Indian Army, and of course, forces like the Assam Rifles, I think, are perhaps the only non-partisan forces that actually continue to be the pride of this great nation of ours. Jai Hind.
Absolutely, sir. Jai Hind, sir. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Such an honor, sir. Such an honor. Thank you. Jai Hind, sir.